joining us, fight fans. With us right now, friend to the room, president of WBC, Mr. Mauricio Suleiman.
What's up, Mauricio?
How are you? Very,
Good.
very happy to be with you as always.
Always happy to have you. So much to talk about. I'm not sure if you're still in Saudi Arabia or you're back in Mexico. Where are your whereabouts, if you don't mind me asking?
There's no way he's back in Mexico.
I don't know. He could have gone.
No way. There's no way.
I'm still in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, so look, so much to talk about. Let's jump into what we just saw this past weekend, and Jake Paul and Tommy Fury finally getting it on. First off, beautiful belt. I couldn't see what were the details in it, but from afar, it looks beautiful. Were you satisfied with the event that was put together in Saudi Arabia this weekend as a fight fan?
You know, I was here, I was present. I was very impressed. I am very impressed by what is going on in this part of the world. The organization was sensational. The event was spectacular. They had amateur fights. They had a woman fight. They had preliminaries with local fighters. Wow. And then we had an unbelievable championship fight with Macabo and Badu Jack.
Yes.
And I was very happy, very impressed with the Fury and Jake Paul fight. It was a final chapter for the beginning of Jake Paul. Now he has lost. Now the pressure is off, and now he has the opportunity to start continuing boxing if he desires to do so. And Tommy Fury, he did a good job in boxing, so I think it went very well and very good for the sport.
So is he ranked? Is Tommy Fury ranked now as a cruiserweight?
Well, the new rankings will come next week, and yes, he will be ranked.
Okay, but can you just explain that? Because a lot of people were giving you negative comments because they don't understand the ranking system. They're thinking, oh, he's gonna, if Jake would have won, because that's the part they hated. If Jake would have won, oh, he would have been ranked in the top 10, and that's not what you meant. Can you please just explain what you meant?
Yeah, the WBC has 40 fighters ranked per each division. And what I said personally was that the winner would be ranked, and I didn't mention any number at all, any position at all. So the rankings committee will meet over the beginning of the month and make the assessment.
So people are gonna have a problem with that, because I could see if it was Jake beating Tommy because Tommy had 8 professional fights, but Tommy beating Jake, and now if he's getting ranked, is it because he beat Silva? Why?
I'm sorry, because what?
Is it because Jake beat Silva already, and Silva was already held in high regards because he beat Chavez Jr.? Why would Tommy be ranked after beating Jake Paul?
Well, Tommy is undefeated and he has fought constantly, and I've seen him fight several times. He's a fighter, and I'm sure that there's no question that he can be ranked in the WBC at all.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with him being ranked in the top 40. This is a classic case of people speaking too soon when, to Barack's point, say, them assuming that it's in the top 10 or top 15.
Yeah.
So, in any case, outside of that, in other news, a lot going on with Conor Benn's situation and you guys clearing him. Can you dive into that? Because people also had negative things to say about that. So I'd like to give you an opportunity to touch on overall, after getting all the information, why did the WBC make this decision?
Well, this is a complicated process. Every time there's a adverse finding, the immediate reaction from the public is that the fighter is a cheater and guilty, and there's a due process for every single situation, and also in doping. So the WBC has a clean boxing program. Once there is a adverse finding, a committee is created, and there's a protocol to follow and a full process to adhere by. And in this case, the WBC had a committee, experts in the area, and the WBC gathered all the information. It took a long time to get the information, but at the end, that was the ruling that they concluded, and that's what we put in the document. So that's basically all that there is.
And my understanding is that the A sample was dirty, but the B sample wasn't. I'm not sure what happened in this situation.
No.
Okay.
The A and B, the B concluded the same result
As the A. Okay.
Yes, and like Canelo had the thing with clenbuterol,
Yes.
and people still call him a cheater.
Right.
The WBC conducted that matter with clenbuterol. If you're not familiar, it's a meat contamination. There was a soccer tournament in Mexico 2011, 200 tests, 130 came out positive for clenbuterol from players from all over the world. And then the Canelo and the Francisco Vargas came. And today, WADA, which is the World Anti-Doping Agency, which is in charge of putting the parameters for anti-doping in the whole world, they moved the threshold up in clenbuterol dramatically. So,
Well, you see, I'm glad you brought that up because it kind of reminds me of what's going on here in America in a lot of states in terms of marijuana and cannabis. Some people that are spending so much time in prison for those, even though the laws have changed and now it's legal for recreation. The fact that they've moved the threshold up and people are still calling these fighters like Canelo dirty or filthy, it's unfair and needs to be put out there more often, even though we're still not going to please the fight fans. As you know, fight fans are so fickle. They're never happy. They're always going to have a problem with it. What does this mean for Conor Benn in terms of WBC? There's no, I mean, what other, I'll re-ask that question. What other barriers does he have to go through in order to actually fight and be cleared all across the board?
well, the WBC does not issue licenses. That's
Right.
we're not a.
No, I'm
a-
aware of that, but I mean, to your knowledge, I mean, is that the only thing, the next step for him?
Yeah, I believe he needs to get a license and continue his career. I'm sorry for Conor Benn. He has been under horrible scrutiny and has been receiving a lot of hate, if you want to call it that way.
Yes.
But it's a complicated world. The doping matter is always difficult. We have had many cases with the clean boxing program. We started this with VADA 8 years ago. Has been a great success, and I'm just very sorry for every single situation because it's different. It's different substances, different circumstances. But anyone who has an adverse finding immediately is billed or labeled as a cheater. Yes.
Well, you started your response, but you didn't get to finish. You was comparing him to Canelo. I'm guessing you're saying that the amount that he had in his body was so low that's why you came to this conclusion. But and I also want to know, can he also do a hair follicle test like Canelo did?
I'm not sure what comes next. In truthfulness, I am not a scientist, and everything was completely analyzed and decided by this panel. But what goes from here is for the WBC. There was absolutely no way to prove that it was ingested with a ill intention, and now he will be back in the rankings.
Mauricio, just shifting gears really quick. I want to touch on a good friend of ours that this past weekend became 3-time world champion in Badou Jack, and your sanctioning body as a cruiserweight. First off, phenomenal fight to, you mentioned that earlier, but what's next for Badou Jack in terms of the WBC? Was there a rematch clause in that fight? If not, who's the mandatory now? Who's the number one ranked contender for a cruiserweight in the WBC?
Yes, the WBC had the convention last year, and that division was very active in the discussions. We confirmed Noel Mikhaelian as the mandatory, and we ordered another fight, Machunu, for a final elimination, and but then Machunu against Badou Jack. But then Badou Jack contracted to fight for the title. So he's now the champion. The first mandatory is Noel Mikhaelian. And it was a tremendous fight, very dramatic. It was great to see the response and the coming back, because Makabu was down, and then he came back strongly like a warrior. And then Badou Jack had to dig deep to really get back and ended the fight in tremendous fashion.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm so elated for Badou Jack. What a wonderful human being. He's been on the short end on so many fights that probably should have went his way. So it was great to see him become a 3-division champion. Hopefully he can get in the Hall of Fame one day. Okay, so will you guys be a part of this rematch if it happens when Jake Paul activates his rematch clause?
I don't know. We were very happy to be part of this event. The DDA belt was a petition from the local authorities to commemorate DDA season in Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
And we were greeted tremendously. It was a very special visit. First time I'm here. And I'm very happy, as I said, for what I'm seeing and the plans that Prince Caleb has for the region. They want to do a great amount of fights and now to be a continuous program. So it's very encouraging. And what I saw is tremendous, the boxing commission. And as I said, I enjoyed the fight. It was difficult. The referee did a very good job. And I think it's going to be, if they do the rematch, it shall be different. As I said, and I think Jake Paul has lost all the pressure now that he had. Now he is a real fighter, and he will go back to the drawing board, and they can do it again. It will be interesting to see.
You know, you bringing up how great the event was, and from afar watching it, it looked phenomenal. I mean, the lights and technology, just the way the setup was. What's one of the things that, the Prince and the Skill Challenge promotions, what are they doing that may be different? And part two of that question is like, it worries me a little bit because there's so much money, unlimited amount of money out there to bring the big fights there. And it might take away from a lot of Americans that might not be able to travel to Saudi to sit in an arena like they do to Vegas, like they do in Texas, because nobody can compete with when they start bidding for fights.
Well, it was a all-time promotion. It was a very entertaining press conference with a participation like the Don King type of press conference from before. It was the glamour, the technology. They had drones on the sky giving different messages. And people dressing, the way they dress, and they had
glamorous,
a huge hospitality room. So it was something different, very glamorous. But the truth is that it was a very, very well put promotion. Ahmed Abdallah has worked very hard. He's an honorable man, and I'm very happy for him. But there's Madison Square Garden, there's Las Vegas, there's Texas. There's Japan, there's the UK, and now I believe it's going to be a reality for Saudi Arabia to host fights in a more continuous way and not just once in a while.
You know, boxing just gets a bad rap, and I think it's flourishing. And these are the examples of boxing flourishing, having other venues in other countries displaying boxing, just like all of these networks that we have displaying boxing. This is different from years ago. Do you think that the state of boxing right now would make your father, Jose Sulaiman, proud?
In some ways, yes. In some ways, no. There's great talent. There's champions that are heroes of their nations. Naoya Inoue in Japan, Canelo in Mexico and all the Latin world, Tyson Fury in the UK. And there's unbelievable, like if you look at the lightweight division with so many fights that can be made, welterweight, middleweight, it's a great time for talent and ability of champions. Yeah. But this is the worst time of the sport being fractioned and all battling once, everybody against each other. The TV networks, the promoters, they cannot sit down and make the big fights because of the contracts and the egos and the abuse of power. Then fighters are pricing themselves out. Of course, they fight for money, and they deserve the money. But there are some points where he just simply needs to get a little bit more fan-oriented all the way in the sport.
I agree with that. You know, you mentioned Tyson Fury really quickly. He is the WBC heavyweight champ of the world, and it seems like he hasn't snagged a big fight yet, another big fight. You know, people want to see him against Usyk. Some people want to see him against Joshua. In your heart, do you see Tyson still fighting for another few years? Or is he the type to randomly just say, I'm done with this, I accomplished enough? What is the WBC waiting for as far as him defending that title?
Well, we're waiting for, because we gave lead weight for him to be able to do the ultimate unification with Usyk.
Right.
And that's what everybody has been waiting for. Tyson Fury was ready last year when he wanted to fight Usyk by the end of the year, but it didn't happen. So we will see. Hopefully they will come to senses and give the world the fight everyone wants to see.
Well, can you educate the fans on how, when you have 4 different sanctioning bodies, 4 different belts, that is, and you possibly have 4 different mandatories, how do you decide who goes first? How do you decide that order?
That is a problem, and I have been in communications with the other organizations. We have been in good faith having meetings in person very soon, because that's the issue. When you have an undisputed champion or a unified champion, could be 2 belts. How do you structure the mandatories? How do you work together in order to keep a champion to be unified or undisputed and not losing belts because of the rulings of the mandatories?
Mm-hmm. They need to shoot dice for it. the sanctioning bodies, rock, scissors, paper, shoot. That's a good question, Burak. Like,
you know, we have put on the table to see how we can come up with a process where there's one unified mandatory. You know, the mandatories of the organizations to fight each other, then to become the mandatory for the champion. But it's a difficult. It has to be a well-structured process. For a promoter to have a mandatory is a great ticket because they have secured the championship fight. And that's what every promoter wants to have, a mandatory, so they are secure for a championship fight. Unfortunately, sometimes these positions are abused.
Right.
And if you don't have a real mandatory of the real status, then it becomes a problem.
Okay, so and basically there's no order. It's sometimes a struggle and a fight. Do you think you see in the future a possibility of the 4 organizations coming together and becoming like a board? So the heads of each organization, like yourself, would come together and be a part of the board to create one belt? Does that even sound possible?
Well, that's a proposal that it's on the table, but it's very difficult.
Who proposed that? Who proposed that?
We proposed to have a tournament between champions.
Mm-hmm.
One fights the other two fight, and then the two winners fight, and then you have the undisputed, and then that fighter becomes the world champion. The world, and then each organization could have their own, but then you already have, and then that fighter to be administered by the board, as you mentioned.
Yes.
With specific guidelines for that champion.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like that idea, having one belt that's kind of attached to all of them. But also, even more than that, I like the idea of having a board and having you guys sit at a conference room table and really working together, more often than not. But I know you're always open to that, Mauricio. So, listen, as always, thank you for being candid and honest with us. Always good to have you. Have a safe travel back home.
Yes.
Thank you so much. God bless. And thank you for all that you do for the sport. Thank you.
Oh, thank you
Bye.
as well. And thank you for always being available to answer the toughest questions. We really appreciate you for that.
Yeah.
Anytime. Thank you very much.
All right.